Good morning. This is the Blainsville webcast that can be found each week on a whole bunch of places, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And for more information and past episodes of the show, you can go to our website, which is behindmeblainsworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here coming to you from my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and uplifting stories about people and organizations in Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Chief Jackie Stepp, who is the Interim Chief of Police, and Rick Rice, Public Information Officer at the Asheville Police Department, for being my guest today. And folks, you can wave to all your friends who are watching you. So give them a big wave if you're
Hey.
watching. Okay. I should mention to you that Interim Chief of Police Jackie Stepp has proudly served with the Asheville Police Department since 2005. Over her career, she has led in nearly every corner of the department. She has a passion for community-centered policing, focusing on service, trust, and building strong relationships with people of Asheville. A native of Buffalo, New York, Rick moved to Asheville in 1999 as part of his 30-year radio career. In 2024, he joined the Asheville Police Department as a public information officer and launched the first podcast for any City of Asheville department in August of 2024 called, and I gotta love that name, Rick, the APD Pod Squad. How'd you get that name, by the way? I had to come up with that.
I spent a long time in radio, and so just kind of creativity and thinking along those lines just comes natural. So I kind of spitballed about three or four different ideas and just kind of landed on that one after I pitched him to several members of the department. That was the one we landed on.
Just loved it, even though somebody stole it from you beforehand. I guess 20 years ago, they must have known that somebody's going to use that 20 years later, or whatever. Let me ask you both this question. So I know Rick is a native of Buffalo. Chief Stepp, where are you from initially?
I believe she's on mute for some reason. I think.
Okay.
I think I
Ex-
got it.
There
There
you
we
go.
go.
Good. Okay, Chief.
Henderson County, just next door.
Okay, and so when you were a young woman growing up in Henderson County, did you always know you wanted to be a police officer?
I always did from
Did
as far
you?
as I can remember.
Okay. Well, did anything lead to that desire?
Well, we used to have where I used to live, there was a neighbor of ours that had he was an officer and had a patrol vehicle, take home vehicle. So I just used to see it drive by and I was just, mesmerized every time it would leave the driveway or something. So I think that's where my initial interest came from.
Now, did you eventually study for it or go to school for it?
I did. I have an undergraduate graduate degree in criminal justice, and then I also have a master's degree
Okay, in criminal justice. Do you
in
remember
public affairs
in public affairs? Do you remember the first time you started working for a police department or doing this kind of work?
with the Asheville Police Department in October 2005.
Okay, so that was your first job in a police setting?
Is the only police department I've ever wanted to work.
And what was your job in 2005? What was your first job?
Well, I started out as a cadet, and believe it or not, our first in-house VLET Police Academy. So that's how I started.
Okay, very cool. Talk about that because a lot of people don't know about it, I think. When you did that, how old were you?
I was 25 years old. I had
Okay.
gotten out of college. I had a good job. But then when I turned 25, I thought, man, I really need to get into the career that I want to be in so that I have time to really build a true career. So at 25, I applied, and here I am today.
And doesn't the police department also have a cadet program for younger kids or that they can study police work?
Well, right now we have a week long in the summer junior police academy where we bring students in to learn about police work, kind of really plant the seed, if you will. And we're actually launching this year what we're calling an immersion program to target those just after high school that may be looking for their career and may not know what that is yet. So we're excited to launch really two separate um, youth academies this year.
And what'll be exciting about that, I guess, if you can track down the road how many people eventually enter police work, or especially if they go into with the actual police department, would really be cool.
Absolutely. We used to have what's called the Explorers
Yeah,
program.
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually have an officer today who went through that program. So it is exciting to see who comes out of that. And that officer is still with us today.
Now, the Explorers program, was that geared to school kids or scouts? What was that geared to?
It's really open to everybody, but it was more geared around students.
Okay, but same token, Rick, I'll ask you to talk about something similar that I went through, and it's a great program that you still have to this day. It was the Citizens Police Academy, and what was that about, Rick?
Well, it's differently structured than the other ones that we have. This is, as you know, you took it. It's 10 weeks, once a week on Thursdays, and it covers everything from soup to nuts in the Asheville Police Department. It gives people an opportunity to learn about every department. Chief Stepp is one of the presenters. We'll have detectives in there, forensics. We'll have I give a presentation from the communications standpoint. So we now have 3 programs with the Citizens Police Academy, the Junior Police Academy, and soon to be the Immersion Academy that kind of covers just about anybody in the member of our community that wants to learn more about the Asheville Police Department. They have any number of ways to do it.
And what was the third one you mentioned?
Well, the one that Chief Stepp had briefly mentioned, first year for it, it's called the Immersion Academy, and that's going to be for people that are out of high school and maybe considering policing as a career.
I wonder too, out loud, that, like I said, I went through the experience, must have been 15 years ago. It was one of the great experiences I've ever had because I remember and I guess most citizens know very little bit about the police and what they do. And boy, did it make me appreciate the job, the police officers do on a daily basis. I always remember the one thing I remember from that, I forgot who the chief was at the time, but he said their biggest job was to get home alive. It just made a really impact on me, that he said, and I still remember it to this day. I'm curious, you're still new to it, but has anybody ever gone through the Citizen Police Academy and become a police officer, do you think?
I'm not sure if that's actually happened specifically, like they track that kind of thing. Chief Stepp might know. I think we looked into it at one point and we couldn't document a single person specifically, but there were people that had taken it that did eventually try to join the department. I think that's what Captain Brown told me.
And did some eventually stay with you as volunteers or come and help out with the police department?
I don't know for a fact that they have done that, but I know that there's people that work for other departments of the city that learn more about the police department by taking it intentionally so. And I'm not sure many people use it as an introduction because of how it's structured. I think it's just a way to learn more about the Asheville Police Department and the inner workings and how things are done to become more familiar with it and just to kind of embrace our department a little more.
And in terms of the department, I'll turn back to the chief, is that certainly you've had a bunch of changes and good changes, I think, for the most part, certainly in the last couple of years. And one of them, chief, I think is the exciting part that you are actually the chief, and this is a first for Asheville. Is that correct? That you had a woman as the chief of police?
No, I'm actually the second.
Oh,
Chief Tammy Hooper,
oh,
and
that's right. Okay.
yep, she was the first female chief.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I remember her. And so, though still, it's not widespread, at least in, I guess, in the state or the country, but percentage-wise, I don't think there are too many women chiefs. Would you say that's true?
I would say that, but more importantly for APD, it's really less common to promote internally. And with Chief Lamb's retirement and then me even temporarily filling this, hopefully that's kind of setting a new trend, if you will. It's, been 20 years since, or no longer than that since we've had an internal police chief.
Now, so yours is an interim position, and interim for
Correct.
how long is that? Do we know?
We don't know at this point. We have a new City Manager Wesley. She's just on a few weeks in and kind of getting her feet wet, and then I think she will determine, what this position looks like.
Now, is that something that, if not in Asheville, elsewhere, you would eventually like to become a permanent chief of police or something above that?
Yes, I mean, I've worked my whole career to be here. I will say that I consider Asheville my home. I live here, I work here, I play here, I raise my children in this community. So I do intend to finish my career at the Asheville Police Department.
Now, if you would talk a little bit about then the whole idea of recruitment, because that's something I know used to be a real problem with the Asheville Police Department, but it's since gotten better lately, or things are looking up in terms of recruitment.
I'm very optimistic about we are with staffing compared to 2020. 2020 was the last time that we were fully staffed, and since then we have really struggled after the mass exodus of police officers that we saw during those couple of years. But we are trending up. We just had 20 that passed the state exam, and they are scheduled to graduate and be sworn in February 20th this month. So couldn't be more excited. Not only to have them as part of our first in-house academy that we've brought back for the first time since 2013, but also our largest class size since 2018 or 2019. So really excited about that number. That's the biggest number we've had in a very long time. And then February this week, we just started with 10 more cadets in our new BLET program.
And how long does it take to go through the program?
It's about 6 months approximately, and then you've got 4 months of field training with another sworn police officer before you're considered solo by yourself status.
I mean, that's pretty exciting to all of a sudden add 30 people to the staff in a short period of time.
Yeah, now it takes that 10. It'll take almost a year to
Right.
come out. These 20, they won't be considered kind of duty ready on their own until about July this year. But it is absolutely very exciting for us to start restaffing and building back. And I think we're building back, most importantly, stronger than we were before because of our in-house academy, and really because we've learned over the last few years, the incredible men and women that are here now have just continued to learn to do more with less. So I'm really excited to start restaffing.
In terms of what you just said, doing more with less, if you would, Chief, talk about the whole process that now, not only in Asheville, but I guess nationwide, it's more common to have one officer per vehicle. But when I first moved to Asheville many years ago, I guess nationwide, every officer, there were two vehicles and an officer in a vehicle. Was that true for the most part?
Not in my career, probably back pre my career, that was true, but we have always had one officer assigned per vehicle.
Okay, interesting. Is that preferred, or is it better for staffing? What's the thinking behind it?
Well, I think it just creates more readiness in the community, more visibility. There are intentionally 2 officers assigned to each beat, which is a small geographic location, to make sure that that officer always has backup close by and has the help they need should they need it. Now, we do dispatch 2 officers per certain calls for service, priority calls for service. So there's still sometimes 2 that are automatically dispatched versus 1.
And a change also in that regard, in my lifetime, certainly, though, has made it, I guess, more accepted, is the fact that now, is it true that all officers have cameras on them when they go out?
That's correct. They have body-worn cameras, and they have what we call fleet in-car cameras.
Okay. And it's interesting because when it first came out, I remember, and you do too, that wasn't real popular, I guess, or wasn't something that was welcomed with open arms. But now it's kind of accepted. And in some respects, I guess it's a pretty good thing to have. Would you agree?
Oh, I completely agree. Sometimes we just resist change because it's
Okay.
change. And I think anybody, if you could imagine a camera just being attached to your body 24 hours or your whole shift, it's just a lot to really wrap your head around initially. But what we have seen is that camera really gives us an opportunity to prove what actually happened versus maybe complaints or misinformation that might come through.
I would imagine too, the camera would tend to make officers more polite, or a nicer officer in terms of dealing with the public, because they know they're being taped. And so that I imagine was a factor as well.
I hope that our policies and procedures did that prior to cameras and the officers that we hire. But yeah, I think the camera really is just reassuring to them that what they're doing, the actions they're taking, are being recorded should they or we need to review that in the future.
And I mention that because when I took the citizens Police Academy, we had a ride-along thing. Do they still do you allow citizens to do ride-alongs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But again, I can only tell you, it must have been 15 years ago. It was not quite, they didn't have cameras then, or at least this officer didn't, and his interactions with the public would not have been the same as they were now. So it's just kind of an interesting change. And let me ask you, Rick, in terms of this whole aspect, that if folks are interested in becoming a member of the Asheville Police Department, I guess first thing, Rick, they go to the website, and then we'll talk about what happens at that point in time.
Yeah, that's usually what we recommend when we talk about it on the podcast. As far as anyone that wants to be an officer, the easiest way to do it is just to Google Asheville Police Department. You can find us. We're always hiring, seemingly since I've been a part, and for the last whatever years. It's been a long time since we've been fully staffed. So just Googling Asheville Police Department hiring, you can find it easy enough. Yes.
And you can also talk about, since we mentioned it, the podcast. What's the idea behind the podcast?
Well, you know what? Jackie, Chief Stepp, was probably a part of the discussions, I would imagine, before I got hired. It was the idea of a previous chief, David Zach, from what I'm told, and they had discussed it. They wanted to do it, and then he had retired, and then Chief Lamb was the one that was moving into the position. And as that was occurring, I was actually in the process of being hired, and that was one of the things that was discussed as part of the hiring process was the podcast, and my ideas for that and how that would look and what that would sound like. So perhaps my career in radio might have given me an edge if that's something they wanted to do, because I was certainly qualified for that, if nothing else.
Is there a video component to it also?
There isn't. We decided to make it audio only for several reasons. First of all, it makes the officers more comfortable to speak, and we can speak candidly that way. Most of them are not used to, television cameras or any kind of cameras right in their face. So we can have better conversations, I think, without it. Plus, I did a little bit of research with what the goals were for the podcast, that the way that people could receive it would probably be while they're going about their business at their house, whether they're exercising, whether they're on a walk. They could just listen to it in their AirPods, or any number of ways. They could, while they're driving around, they could just listen to it and consume it that way. And so with what we had in mind for what we wanted to achieve with the podcast, we felt that audio only would be the best way to do it.
And talk about finding it. How do people find it?
It's real easy. Any of ways you get your podcast, that you can get any of them on. So Apple or Spotify or iHeart, any of the major areas that distribute podcasts, just search APD Pod Squad, and you'll find it. It's free, of course. So that's the easiest way. If you wanted to just ask a question or maybe submit an idea, maybe you're already a listener, you can just email APD podcast feedback at asheville.nc.gov. So that is the email address for that.
And do you get people responding to it?
Yeah, they actually are. We've been doing it for it's about a year and a half so far. We recently passed, I think it was 5,000 downloads.
Oh, wow.
So we're doing pretty well. New episodes every 2 weeks. We always like to feature our officers or things happening with our officers. We'll feature multiple guests. The most recent episode that's landing this week, which will be the first week of February, will feature some of our married officers, of which we have several in the department. I think we counted maybe 7 or 8 married couples within the Asheville Police Department, and we're featuring 2 married couples, as National Marriage Week is the second week of February, to coincide with Valentine's Day and all of that.
Very cool. And that sounds to me unusual, though, because a lot of places, including governmental offices, you can't have married couples in the same department or area. So you guys are the exception, which is kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to defer a policy question like that to Chief Stepp.
Okay.
But I know we have married couples.
Okay, and it's allowed, I assume, that you have them. If I go back to Chief, then, in terms of some good news too, I just read, was in the paper yesterday, I think it was, that the crime stats are kind of going downward. Talk a little bit about that, Chief, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never pass the opportunity to talk about really the incredible work of a lot of people that play a role in crime reduction. Violent crime last year was the first time in 10 years that we broke sub 500. we saw a 24% reduction in violent crime. And that's huge. We really strive for at least a 5% reduction every year. So you can see how we exceeded that number. We saw, and in that violent rate, we saw a drastic reduction in our homicides, 54%. I wish I could report we had no homicides,
Right.
but unfortunately we did have 6, but a 54% reduction. We saw a reduction in our traffic fatalities. And I think that's huge. That was a 35% reduction. We did see a slight increase in property crime, 10% last year compared to the year before. But if you look at the last 5 years of property crime, we're still trending downward at a 2% decrease overall over the last 5 years. And really last year is when as we gained staffing back, we really started telling the community, we need you to report those larcenies and things, shoplifting that you may not have been reporting in 2020 when we had to roll back some of our police services due to the staffing crisis that we were in then. So I think a lot of that uptick is due to an increase in just reporting that may not have been being done the last few years. But yeah, super excited about that. But when I say a lot of people involved, it really takes a village to have those kind of statistics. And it's no small feat for any police department of any size. I think it's, multiple factors. I think it's a result in the police officers on the street, the investigators, our strategic use in technology. But probably most importantly is our partnerships and those community members and residents who continue to step forward and report and help us solve crime.
Talk about the thing you kind of alluded to is the fact that it has changed in Asheville over time since I've been here. And again, may have been early 2020s, that whole area. But there was a time when police weren't investigating smaller crimes, or it was, store merchants, couldn't get somebody to come out or investigate something, or a lot of it was pushed on the table. Has that changed then, or you have a problem? You call the police, they're going to respond?
We have rolled that back. Yes, you call the police and we are going to respond. Like I said, we did have to eliminate some services, post 2020. But as we're able to slowly restaff, we are now responding, and we're actually encouraging people, call us, we will come.
One of the tough things you have to deal with, and it's funny, it was in the papers the other day, and also I spoke to District Attorney Williams a couple of weeks ago, is the fact that there are a lot of homeless folks in the area. That's a tough thing for police to have to deal with, that it's not necessarily a police matter, but it becomes a police matter. How do you deal with the homeless?
Well, it's just important for police officers and the community to understand homelessness itself is not a crime.
Good
A
point.
lot of time people want to call the police because the individual maybe doesn't just look a certain way or what have you. But when we ask, well, what's the crime? What are they doing from a criminal standpoint? Sometimes they can't articulate that. So we just try to really educate the community that homelessness is not a crime, and we as an agency do not criminalize homelessness. There has to be a crime being committed.
And the nice thing in Asheville, there are more and more agencies trying to help the homeless or trying to get into housing or, I guess that's the goal, not to arrest them, but to help them if possible.
Absolutely. Our officers provide resources every time they go out. The city has implemented our arrest team with the fire department, who are also now going out proactively, trying to identify and help these individuals and make sure they know where the resources are in an effort to get them off the street.
What about another issue that comes up, and I'm sure all the time with you, but the whole issue of people asking for money or panhandling on the street. You mentioned homelessness, not a crime. Is panhandling a crime?
It is, and we recently, a few months, maybe a little more, changed the high traffic zone ordinance related to that, not in an effort to help us enforce, but to more regulate where people can and cannot be, because it's really unsafe
right?
not only for the person panhandling, but we've got data that correlates, traffic collisions related to those panhandlers. We've had individuals hit while panhandling. So it's really just an unsafe environment for the person panhandling and the motoring public on that street or highway, whatever it is.
How should citizens handle the situation, both in terms of one, if they see it or in front of their store or home, and two, how should they respond to somebody asking for money?
I think they should just call the police.
Okay.
Our ordinance is difficult to really wrap your head around in terms of where exactly they have to be and how they're panhandling. I think it's better practice. Just call the police, provide as much information as possible, in terms of behavior, not just they ask me for money, but are they aggressive? Are they impeding traffic and what's their description? And just really providing as much information. That way, the officer has all the information they need to assess the situation once they get on scene.
If asked, do you recommend people give money?
I do not. I think we have a lot of resources here in Asheville that are designed to help individuals. I think that money is better suited to go to those direct resources versus the individual. A lot of time, unfortunately, some of that money is used toward
Right.
substance abuse problems or issues, and where you're putting your money if you support one of those resources here in Asheville, and we have a plethora to support.
Another program, Rick, we may have touched upon it, but I just love the name. It's the idea of, well, coffee with a cop. I just love love the name of it. What's Coffee with a Cop about, Rick?
That's a run with our community engagement division. And it's just an opportunity to meet with the public and have them come to us and express their issues or just share ideas or just share some coffee, just spend some time with members of the public and get to know them a little bit better. And we move it around the community. And that division does a great job of making sure that it's in different locations and making it as available as possible as they can do. And you know what happens when you're having a cup of coffee with somebody? You're having a conversation, you're learning about them and they're learning about you. And it's just another way to get to know the community and to listen to their concerns.
How do you participate in that program?
Oh, that's just wait for us to announce the next one on our Facebook page. We have them quarterly. And so we'll move it around to various coffee shops in town. And of course, they're free to come and enjoy a cup of coffee with us. The Danishes, you're probably on your own for that. But if you want a cup of coffee, we'd love to have a cup of coffee with you. We had a great turnout at the last one. That one happened to be just outside the Kenilworth community near Biltmore Village. Prior to that, we were in West Asheville. We've been in South Asheville. And so we try and move it around a little bit and have it at different times as well to try and make it as available as we possibly can to every member of the community.
And so you mentioned in terms of finding out about that, best bet is people check, you have a Facebook page?
Yeah, our Facebook page gets a lot of interaction with our community. Everything that we do as a department, as far as press releases or events or things that we do with the community or with different members, we post on our Facebook page and our Instagram page as well. So we highly recommend everyone follow our Facebook page. We post everything on there, especially Coffee with a Cop. So you can follow where we are. If there's a blood drive, we'll post information about that. Places our officers are, interactions with the community at parks and things of that nature, and things that we do as a department are on there in addition to, and during this latest storm, for example, all the information you would need about street closures and plows and where they're going and things that we're doing for the community to help in the recovery from the storms. It's all on there as well. It's a great resource. So if you don't already like the Facebook page, I recommend it.
And you also have, right, you have videos on that as well?
Oh yeah, we've got a great videographer.
I was going to say that, a compliment. Who would think a Facebook page for Asheville Police Department would be interesting, but it really is, and so the videos are just great on that.
We have an incredibly talented content producer that is a member of the Asheville Police Department. And he came from Los Angeles, where he was working with major companies, and he just wanted to live here and work for the Asheville Police Department. And he has some policing in his family, in his history, and he felt called to do this for the Asheville Police Department. And he does a wonderful job. It's incredibly professionally done.
And I don't know if it's okay to do so, but since you mentioned him, can you give a shout out to who this person is, or is it private?
He likes to stay kind of
Okay.
behind the scenes. He deflects all of the praise to the police department and the officers and everyone that does such a great job.
And what's so cool about it, it really tells a story. It's not just informational purposes, but they're really some great stories. So give a compliment to them that somebody watches it and really likes it, and you get good feedback on it.
Yeah, we really do. There's some videos that have been watched by thousands and thousands of people. He's incredibly creative and clever and talented. And so especially around holidays and events and occurrences where he can kind of spread his wings a little bit and get creative, he definitely does.
And since we mentioned it earlier, these various academies, especially the Citizens Police Academy, best bet is to go to the website on that.
That's another one. That's probably just easy enough to Google Asheville Police Department Citizens Police Academy. And I believe we're full for the spring edition already.
Wow.
We had such demand for it. The fall edition of the Citizens Police Academy was full completely, and we had a waiting list. And so we started with people that wanted to be a part of the spring edition, and they were chomping at the bits for that announcement. And so I believe that is full. And so we'll start looking toward the other programs in the summer as ways to work with the community.
And you run that how many times?
That's twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall.
But I can't believe already you're full. I mean, that's a great sign. But one of the great programs, if anybody's listening, get into it. They'll really enjoy it, and learn a lot too. In terms of what's upcoming in the future, Chief, anything else that's kind of exciting on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, I think restaffing is exciting
Okay.
for us. I think the trust that we have with our community and those continued partnerships are exciting. But I'm just excited to and really humbled and honored to continue to serve as in the interim role while I can. 2026 obviously will focus on continuing to see that decrease in crime overall. We'll focus on our officer wellness, making sure the officers feel supported and have the tools that they need to do their jobs effectively. And then, we have to, because we're in such still a staffing crisis, in my opinion, we have to continue to be innovative. So we are working toward um, developing our real-time intelligence center, and that really excites me. Technology is something I fully support. We've learned over the last couple of years with our drone program, how to be innovative, how to supplement the officers in the field, really it increases safety for not just the officers, but for the community as a whole. And as we build out the real-time intelligence center, it is going to do the exact same thing. So we are super excited. We are in the really phase one of fully launching that. So I hope people will stay tuned to see how that develops throughout the year.
And just a few last questions to the both of you. One to you, Chief. In terms of coming on board as an Asheville police officer, who is the ideal person you're looking for, and what kind of qualifications do they have? And I'm just curious, so are there age requirements to sign up for it?
Well, there's not an age requirement per se, but generally speaking, 20-year-olds are kind of where we are, 21, before you're able to really get into the academy. But for me, it's more important about the person, just somebody who has a service heart. And I think you have to have that service heart to do this profession. You're not going to become rich in it. You're going to work long hours. You're going to miss your family a lot. You're going to spend holidays and birthdays away from your kids. It is a really big ask, but there are so many people who have a service heart. Those are the ones we're looking for. There are truly rewards daily that you see in this profession. You're able to touch lives and make differences that you may not see immediately, but they come back to you. And I think last year's a prime example of the work that the men and women, not only sworn, but our civilian professional staff too, all played such a big role in crime reduction. And that is just such a huge reward for the community as a whole. There's just so much in this profession. Still today, I wake up just as excited about coming to work as I did 20 years ago. So I just really look forward to somebody wanting to enter for the right reason.
And on the upper level is, I'm just curious, not that I'm going to want to sign up, but is there any upper age limit you can apply, or there's no upper limit?
No, we welcome everyone. Matter of fact, I think Rick could probably speak more on this to me, but we do have our oldest now cadet that is in the program getting ready to graduate than we've ever had, and he is doing great, doing great.
How old is he? About.
I don't know his exact age.
Okay.
And I don't know that he would want me to tell his exact age.
Okay, very cool. And lastly, you mentioned in just some passing, talk briefly, if you would, about the traffic unit. It's a new unit.
Yeah, well, it's I would consider it reinvigorated unit, right? We have unfortunately that was one of the services in 2020, post 2020 that we had to discontinue. We had to shut down an entire police district. Traffic safety was disbanded, our housing unit was disbanded. But again, because of the community support, our recruitment efforts, and working towards restaffing, we were able to just recently, just within the last 3 months, bring back our traffic safety unit. It's not quite as fully staffed as it was, but it's a step in the right direction. And it, again, just really helps dedicated officers on the street really impact driver behavior. I've already seen and heard a difference, from community members, hey, there's a lot of officers on 240. What's happening? And it just feels good to say that's just us getting back to where we were and being strong and really, really intentionally trying to have an impact on driver behavior.
And Rick, if I can ask you a final question having to do with people listening to this or interested in volunteering for the to come on board with the police department. Do you welcome volunteers, and what kind of capacity do they do, and how do they sign up?
I know we have some volunteers. I'm not sure about the process for that. We've had one. I think Chief Stepp could probably speak to this better. I forget her name offhand, but she's been volunteering with the detectives at the CID department for years, and she's an older woman that has been doing that for years and does some valuable work as well. I don't know about that as a program. If there's just volunteers, Chief Stepp, is there a program for that specifically?
We do have a volunteer program. We've had people, again, assist, like Rick said, in criminal investigations. We've had people actually come in on Thursday nights and really assist with the Citizens Police Academy. So it can look a number of different ways based on the time and the commitment that you have. Probably one exciting thing that we're getting ready to see is we're starting a Citizens Police Academy alumni, because there has been so much interest from CPA participants who said, we don't want to leave. We want to stay engaged. We want to stay involved with our police department. So we are super excited to see, hopefully, that volunteer program really expand based on the feedback. And remember, we had to discontinue Citizens Police Academy for a number of years too. So the excitement that these participants are bringing about continuing to work with the Asheville Police Department, it really excites me, and I look forward to expanding that volunteer program.
Well, keep me in mind, because I don't know if you kept a record of past graduates, but I know I'd be interested. My producer, Cappy Tassetti, just loved it, and she wants to stay involved. So great idea. And to wrap up, back to Rick. So to find out information about the Asheville Police Department, all the cool things you're doing, if you would, Rick, mention two things. So it's the website, and where else do they get information?
That is probably about the best way. We put just about everything on the website or on our Facebook page. So the website, of course, is just with the city of Asheville. You can just search for that. The police department information there, and our staff and things like that, things on Chief Stepp and her history and our other officers and executive staff, if that's what you want to know. Or if you just want to know what we're doing and where you can find us and part of our activities, I would recommend social media. I would recommend our Facebook page for that. And of course, if you've got a question for the podcast specifically, that is APD podcast feedback at asheville.nc.gov, or you can call 250-8800 and leave a voicemail. if you've got like something you'd like us to cover, if there's a topic you'd like us to tech, or somebody you'd like us to speak to. It's like, hey, I'd like to you talk to my son, is it get him in there? Somebody trying to prod somebody in there somehow. But we could look for a guest that way if you want
And
to.
I can't believe I'll ask a former radio guy this. I have to ask you to give that phone number once more, a little bit slower.
250-8800.
Okay, that was great. Anyway, I'd like to thank Rick. Excuse me. I'd like to thank Rick and Chief Stepp being my guests on this edition of the Blaines World podcast. Also, I'd like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And guys, whatever you're doing, just keep it up. I really appreciate all the good work you do. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.